going on, everybody? It's Ashton, your coach of the Halifax Huntails, and today I am ecstatic to announce that I was selected to be a coach in the BBR Scramble 2023 Wi-Fi Draft League tournament. This is my first time ever dabbling into a Wi-Fi Draft League, let alone a Wi-Fi Draft League tournament. The tournament format kind of eludes me, but this time around we're here to throw our hat into the ring and see how we do. Some things to note about this league is that it is the first post-TOMAS DLC Wi-Fi Draft League tournament, so it's kind of hype to be able to be a part of that. There are 8 draft pools that were randomized right before everything was all said and done. Each pool consists of 8 coaches. Each coach is delegated to draft 8 Pokemon. You can't draft more or less, even though it was a points format. You aren't able to economize Pokemon to get more or fewer team members. What you had is what you had, so you have to be a little bit more careful with how you managed your points and with what Pokemon you decided on. There's a lot of thinking involved in this kind of format. And then after the draft, coaches get re-randomized into battle pools, which consist of 4 coaches each, and then once you're there, the top kind of do a round-robin format, battle everybody, and the top 2 coaches from each of the battle pools get to move on to the bracket stage, what I like to call playoffs. Basically, you lose your out. So kind of everyone's goal in the forefront of their mind, I'm sure, to get into that battle pool stage and move on to the latter half of the season. So yeah, that's going to be our goal too. A little bit of a background on the draft to kind of cover what makes this draft a little bit more unique. Like I mentioned before, you get it's a points draft. You get 90 points in this particular draft, and you have to fill your 8 Pokemon slots. Coaches delegate 1 Pokemon on their draft to be their Terra Captain, which they must have iterated at least at the very end of the draft. Their Terra Captains can Terra into any types. You're not drafting a delegated Terra type or a collection of them. Your 1 Terra Captain can Terra into any Pokemon or any type at any week, and it can change week to week. But you must let your opponents know before the battle what that type is, so that they have at least some sort of idea of what they're facing. And there are no transactions during any part of the season, whether it's the battle pool stage, the bracket stage, none of that. You're stuck. You're not stuck. I hate using the word that you're stuck with the team that you have, but you cannot make any improvements to your team or changes at all during any part of the season. So kind of important to know that. But yeah, to kind of move on to where we're sitting in terms of our team. So representing the Halifax Huntails, for the first time ever, we decided to draft Meowscarada as our round 1 pick. It was worth 15 points. I think it was the 5th pick in my 8 coach pool, and I was seeing a lot of things go that were kind of scary, kind of threatening. I really just wanted something that I could rely on for speed control in my favor, and could set the tempo early in terms of setting myself up for a draft that could be a little bit more versatile. I think something that Meowscarada has a very high prominence in draft format is versatility. You could run Scarf, Banded, Life Orb. If you wanted to run Boots, you could. You could run a Focus Sash lead. There's lots of things that Meowscarada can do. And thanks to its protein ability, it can really be tough to prep for. So, of course, with an 8 Pokemon draft, having a Pokemon that's tough to prep for is kind of the name of the game. So that's what we're kind of hoping to accomplish with that first pick there. And then we move on, we draft Heatran. And now, I will say, I kind of planned this draft out a little bit ahead of time, just where it was a little bit less time involved for me to think about an 8 Pokemon draft rather than say a 10 plus Pokemon draft. So I really wanted to focus on making sure that the Pokemon that I did draft kind of worked well with each other. So right away you can start to see that I'm looking to establish a decent Fire, Water, Grass core here by drafting Heatran early on. And I feel like Heatran covered a lot of roles, much needed roles, and covered a lot of type weaknesses as well that my rest of my team members on my draft were lacking or were struggling against. So yeah, he ran just overall really good mon, very, very bulky mon, but also very offensive. I believe it has about a base 130 special attacks, if I'm not mistaken. So, and gets access to a signature move, Magna Storm, and you can just trap Pokemon in, deal progressive damage over time. And if you want to be a little bit stally, you could always run Protect with that too. So there's lots of different ways that Heatran could be annoying. It can also be run as a bulky offensive Pokemon, such as I've seen people run max special attack Modest with leftovers or choice specs even. I can see Assault Vest being an option. With the unfortunate quad weakness to ground, we kind of lead into our next pick here, which is Cresselia. So I saw Cresselia on the draft board, and so I think the highest tier in terms of points was 18-point tier, and Cresselia was at 9. I was just thinking to myself, geez, I better look and see, are there any changes that severely hindered Cresselia's, what it's best known for, which is being fat and supporting. And I looked, and the only things that really did change for Cresselia were that its base defenses both dropped by 10, but in hindsight, that really doesn't change that the mon is just still insanely good at what it does, which is being fat. So it was in the 9-point tier, and I was thinking to myself, how many coaches, given that there's only going to be 8 Pokemon per team, how many coaches are going to have an answer to Terra Captain Cress? So I was thinking about it, and at the end of the day, I ended up going for it, and I kind of wanted to kind of build my team around Terra Captain Cress, hence why I drafted Heatran, because two of Heatran's main weaknesses that are relatively common, I'd say fighting's a little bit less common, but ground and fighting are both covered by this very, very fat Pokemon. So that was kind of the thinking behind that. But what also makes Terra Captain Cress a bit annoying is that it can be a setup sweeper. If you want to call it a sweeper, it's not really the hardest hitting Pokemon at base 85 special attack, but maybe base 75 too. We'll have to go look back at that. But yeah, it is able to do a little bit more given the Terra Captain status. So I won't get too much into what I'm planning to do with this Pokemon, as I didn't want to give any of my opponents any more information than I would like them to have. But yeah, there's definitely some things I can do with Cresselia that aren't just, one-dimensional fat Pokemon sits in your face. But yeah, Cress will be our Terra Captain for the season. Hopefully we'll make good use of it. And we move on. I ended up picking Pheasantipede as my 4th overall pick. I failed to mention earlier, Heatran, I believe, is my second 15-point Pokemon. So I've drafted 2 15-point Pokemon to this point. Cresselia is a 9-point Pokemon, and Pheasantipede is a 9-point Pokemon. So kind of getting some really, really good budget picks from lower tiers, I'd say. Like Meowscarada in a really good mon in draft, it's in 15 points rather than like the high-end 18-point Pokemon. Heatran, same thing. Of course, both befitting of their tiering, but trying to just establish that I'm economizing on points early on at this point of the draft by drafting some lower tier Pokemon for the second, so that I can take advantage of cleaning things up in the second part of the draft. But yeah, Pheasantipede, I thought it would be a decent team member to kind of make it so that Cress isn't forced into a defensive role every week. Just where it's one of those few Pokemon that isn't a flying type that has access to Roost, which is really nice. I thought that could be an important staple in my draft. Important role to fill as well. I don't want to have one Pokemon that's forced to a role every week. I thought it was interesting that it not only filled a nice speed tier between... Well, it started to fill speed tiers for me, so I was trying to get the gap between Meowscarada and Cresselia a little bit less large, so having a base 99 Pokemon like Pheasantipede whittled that down a tiny bit. It's nice. So Pheasantipede, the thing about it that is very, very strong is that it gets the ability Toxic Chain along with the other 2 legendaries that were introduced in the DLC, Okidogi and Monkey Dory. It's a very, very interesting ability, to say the least. What it does basically is that it gives you a 30% chance every time you use a move that hits an opponent to badly poison the target rather than just a regular poison. So Vezendipity for some reason gets a couple multi-hitting moves, such as, I believe, Beat Up and Tail Slap, if I'm not mistaken too. I have to look back on whether Tail Slap's one of its moves. I know it gets Dual Wing Beat, but I don't know about Tail Slap as well. Anyway, yeah, so if I ever wanted to be really trolly in a sense, I could run a multi-hit move and try my best to proc Toxic Chain that way. But yeah, it's a good mon in the sense that I don't need to run a status condition on it in order to make it effective all the time. I can sort of, in one sense or another, fish for badly poisoning my target with Toxic Chain. But outside of that is a fast Pokemon, a relatively fast Pokemon with the pivoting ability, the ability to recover, and yeah, overall just a really good defensive and offensive typing in Poison Fairy. But yeah, continuing on, I drafted Thundurus Incarnate. This is kind of going to be one of my main wall breakers of my team. I was debating dedicating this as my Terra Captain, but I was tossing between this and Cress. And honestly, after I delegated Cress, I was kind of regretting not changing it to Thundurus, because I was looking at all the other drafts in my draft pool, not knowing yet that I wouldn't be facing all the drafts in my draft pool, and I was thinking, wow, my opponents don't necessarily have amazing answers to the coverage that Thundurus Incarnate gets. And if it were Terra Captain, I could abuse it even farther for things such as, like Dragon Ground types, or things that are quite weak to Ice, for example, that Thundurus wouldn't normally be able to hit. I could Terra Ice, for example, just to throw that out there. But yeah, it would have been it would have been a very strong offensive Terra Captain had I opted to go that route. Base 111 speed, able to outspeed most things in the draft meta, let alone the Paldea decks, if I was to include national decks in there. But anyway, yeah, just a very, very strong mon. Can be run mixed if I wanted to. I don't see myself doing it, but you never know when Defiant may provide itself as a good ability in a certain matchup. So I may be able to take advantage of that in a given week, but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, yeah, just very, very strong Pokemon there. Move on to the 6th pick that I ended up going for, which was Clawitzer. I would have said Clawitzer to the end, where I didn't see a lot of potential for other coaches in my draft pool to take Clawitzer, just where there was a lot of water types drafted to this point. I don't really recall which coaches all had water types drafted to this point, but I didn't see that I was too far under threat for getting Glastrier or Ursaluna taken from me, so I opted to take my water type now. Just to kind of establish that my draft plan was going to be solidified. Excuse me. Yeah, I drafted Clawitzer. I didn't see a huge downside to it, though I would have preferred a bulkier water. Some of the bulkier waters that I was looking into were either too high of a points for me, outside of the fact that Glastrier and Ursaluna were on my draft plan. I just didn't see a whole lot of wiggle room for me to get a higher tier water that I wanted. Or they were just Pokemon that were already picked off, so I ended up just going down a little bit, down a couple tiers from drafting Clawitzer. And Clawitzer's not really a bad mon. It really isn't. Like, you can run it in a bulkier way, but often what it does best is to punch holes with either a offensive assault vest set or a choiced item set. Just where its Mega Launch ability allows it to take advantage of moves such as Water Pulse, Dark Pulse, all that stuff. So yeah, it's a strong mon. It's a little bit on the slower side, but given that it has the massive special attack stat that it has, and coupled with the Mega Launch ability, it's able to do a decent job at punching holes in a given moment. And it's a slow pivot too. kind of coupling with the theme of having some versatility on the squad. I think I can see myself running a FizzDef set on a given week to counter certain Pokemon, but I'm not going to get too far into that because I still haven't revealed who all is in my my draft pool. So we'll move on. So Glastrier was my 7th pick. I was shocked actually to see that it was a 7-point Mon. It has way too good of stats, I think. I think a lot of coaches... I also overlooked it. It wasn't really on my draft plan. The only Pokemon that were really solidified on my draft plan were the first 5. Yeah, I saw Glastrier in 7 points. I was like, this could be a very, very fun Mon to abuse with Cresselia Trick Room. I think catch a lot of people off guard because they see a bulky Ice type and they might not have, you know, a Fire type on their draft because it's an 8 Pokemon draft and they're questioning if they're able to beat it. So that was a kind of a fun pickup there. Gets Swords Dance, it gets Trailblaze, which, you know, if I ever want to, after 2 Trailblazes, I could outspeed a decent amount of the Pokemon available in Paldea decks. I think more often than not, you're gonna see me running this as a bulky Swords Dance option. I don't really see myself doing too much else with it other than setting up and punching holes as Glastrier does best. But yeah, just a very, very solid Mon here for 7 points. Very, very happy I got this. And yeah, final pick would be Ursaluna. This was always kind of something I was planning on doing. It was between this and drafting Urshifu Rapid Strike. I could definitely see myself drafting that as my highest tier Pokemon or highest point value Pokemon in this draft, but I opted for Ursaluna at the end of the day. I just felt like what I could have accomplished to fill out my remaining Pokemon in my draft plan, given the Ursaluna route, was a lot more concrete, something I liked a lot more, and I felt like I meshed with the team as a whole a lot more. I do think Urshifu would have fit the theme of the first 5 a little bit better, but I'm very, very happy that I was able to get nav up Ursaluna in the last round of the draft. But yeah, we're gonna see if we can't make this 8 work. You're gonna see me really, really being methodical about my battling, despite the fact that I won't be able to think as much as I normally do. As you might, you know, for people who watch my videos, they know that I'm an avid Showdown battler. So my time is very important, but. Yeah, we're gonna see if we can't shift gears and play a little more fast-paced. Really take advantage of given matchups. But yeah, moving on to the battle pool randomization. So we were randomized into the master pool, and so in the master pool, you can see we're at the bottom left there, Halifax Huntails. We have Quinn 4949 in our pool. We also have Endless Gadgets and Champion Brayden. So we have to at least get 2 wins to even have a chance of making out our pool, and even with 2 wins, it's not guaranteed, because if another coach gets 2 wins and there's a coach above you with 3 wins, then you and the other coach with 2 wins are about duking it out in terms of differential. So 3 wins is a guarantee, 2 wins is a high chance maybe. But yeah, as you can see by the other drafts in my pool, this is not going to be an easy task. I believe Quinn has a very, very scary team, as we've already team built for them. You can look out for that battle probably happening first of the 3. As you can see, just to kind of analyze or look into Quinn's a little bit more, he has Terra King Gambit, which is an absolute monster. 12-point King Gambit with the ability to terrestrialize. That is a very, very strong pickup by Quinn. I think anybody who has Terra King Gambit in this league is going to have a fun time. But yeah, so Terra King Gambit to start things off. Then he has Iron Moth hitting a high base B tier and then having 140 base special attack to couple that. And then we see a little bit of a mirror action with Meowscarada and Ursaluna Blood Moon to kind of, you know, give both Ursaluna forms a little bit of love. It's kind of nice there. And then we see we also drafted Quaquaval, Uxie, Sliggoo Hisui, and Rotom to kind of close things off there. So a lot of roles filled in this draft. I think Quinn did a very, very good job tackling what needed to be filled in terms of not only team synergy, but just having multiple options for multiple Pokemon. I think Quaquaval is a very, very versatile Pokemon. I think it's one of the best starter Pokemon for being versatile out of the Gen 9 starters. Very, very big fan of the Mon. And then you have then you have like utility Pokemon like Uxie, which hit base 95 speed. So yeah, just lots of variety in speed tiers and roles filled and versatility there. Then Endless, coach of the New Jersey Devileplumes, he drafts Great Tusk, and then he drafts Ogerpon. And something to note about Ogerpon, A, it's the new legendary, of course, and B, it is able to use any form, excluding Terra forms. It was one of the Pokemon that was Terra banned. So it could use the Cornerstone, Wellspring, Hearth Flame, and the Base Grass form. So you're not really sure what to prep for, which I think is kind of interesting. I don't know if that will... I think that's probably a likely thing that will change between this tournament and future draft leagues as a whole, not necessarily just the BBR, but yeah, it's a very good Mon. I don't know too much about it. I've been kind of preparing to think about I'm hosting a doubles draft league as well. So I'm trying to I've been thinking about Ogerpon in terms of doubles more than I have in singles so far. So I'll just stop at that. But yeah, I'm excited to see how Endless uses it in singles, especially on this team. He's got a lot of offensive presence. Just to see the first three, like Great Tusk, Ogerpon, and Iron Bundle right away, bam. That's a very, very strong three. Then you have Klefki for screen support. So kind of getting the support, hitting the support nail in the coffin right there with Klefki. I think those Pokemon can really, really use screens. So I'm not looking forward to facing that, needless to say. And then you have Terra Ceruledge, which is an interesting Terra Captain choice. I think it's another Pokemon that I don't have a lot of experience with in singles, so yeah, we're going to see how well Endless is able to use that as a Terra Captain there. Skuntank, one of my personal favorite Pokemon, if not my favorite Pokemon, and no bias there. And, and then you see a mirror with Quinn's team with Uxie, and then Marill as his last Pokemon. So I can see a lot of these Pokemon making a lot of waves in this pool. Kind of an interesting matchup with my team, so we'll see if we can't discover some hidden tools to be able to combat a team like that. And then we move on to Champion Braden, and he's the coach of the James River Jolteons. So mirroring Endless, he has a Iron Bundle and Ceruledge of his own. And then he also has Corviknight, Clefable, Dragonite, Terra Jolteon, which I personally believe is one of the best Terra Captains that you can get in a lower tier. And he's also giving the mascot some love, which I'm a big fan of. I'm too scared to draft Huntail, but maybe you'll see in the future. But yeah, Terra Jolteon gets some love here, kind of making up for the fact that it lost the access to hidden power, kind of shunning it in competitive play after Gen 7. Then you have Abomasnow and Golem Lola. So some Mons there that don't really get a huge amount of love in singles, but Champion Braden found them useful on his team, and I do see a lot of ways where those Pokemon will do him some good. I think something worth noting right away between those two Pokemon and the rest of his team is that Abomasnow can set Snowscape for Iron Bundle, which will allow it to boost its defense a little bit more, which can be scary. Definitely can be scary. And then of course Aurora Veil support on a team with decent setup, like in the sense of Dragonite, Clefable, Ceruledge. I'm not sure if Iron Bundle gets a set of move, it might. But yeah, there's lots to be had about that. I think Jolteon might also get Calm Mind too, so maybe there's a little bit more to this team behind Aurora Veil than meets the eye. And of course, not to mention something like Corviknight behind a dual screen is not going to die. Just not going to die. So gonna see if we can't take advantage of some Pokemon that might be a little bit more... you can expect a little bit of the same things with, such as Corviknight. I think Corviknight's always going to fill a certain role on anybody's draft, not just Brayden's there, but yeah, we're gonna see if we can't exploit some defensive team members in that matchup. But yeah, I think that's kind of it. We're gonna see if we can't take home at least 2 wins in this pool and move on to the elimination bracket. And yeah, I hope you all are looking forward to the season because it will be very entertaining. And make sure to check out everybody who's uploading BBR content, including the OGs. You have Grandmaster D-Ray, OG Albina, and all the other coaches there. So yeah, I'll be linking my opponent's YouTube channel in the description for every battle. And yeah, make sure to follow up on my videos because I'll be posting the battles there. And yeah, that's really it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you for the first battle of the BBR Summer Scramble. Can't believe I'm saying that, it's unreal. Alright, take care all. Bye.